What's going on, guys? This is the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, presented to you by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boost the same game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. If you bet $100 and you get $100 at WynnBET.com, or you can download the WynnBET app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Final Four Watch Party, April 1st at 7:30 p.m. SGP will be at the Ice House in Los Angeles. So come and hang out with the crew. All the info at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/icehouse.
Yeah, and I don't want to forget about Underdog Fantasy, who we are also brought to you by. Underdog Fantasy is heating up first March Madness. College Pick'em is a great way to get in on the action, especially if you happen to bust your bracket on day one like moi. Plus, Underdog Fantasy has your favorite college basketball player props. So head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
All right. Well, this is another one of our sponsors, Sleeper. We're going to do a draft from the 103. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate any support to the show. And leave your comments and drop your fantasy football questions. We're going to do a series drafting from each of the spots. We've already drafted from the 1 spot and the 2 spot. We're drafting from the 3 spot. This is a Superflex rookie mock draft. It would help if I started it. And, they gave me the 101. I am auto picking.
Mess this up.
I am auto picking. I have nothing to do with what's going on here.
All right.
No surprises. Bijan, it would have totally messed the draft up if Davis Allen went 101.
Yes, it would.
So Bryce Young went 102. 103 is wide open. And for us, this makes it a pretty easy conversation. We talked about this earlier. If I'm at the 103 spot, I am not panicking and driving, going to the 102. You got CJ Stroud. You have Anthony Richardson. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, JSN. Anything you really need here. And you can even trade back if you are not needing a quarterback. If you don't like the quarterbacks that are available, you have options here at the 103. I feel like you're in a very good spot. Brad, what are you doing here at 103?
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite spots because I'm going to be able to let the draft fall to me at the 103, and whether that be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, somebody even worse, somebody reaches for Anthony Richardson in a super flex at the 102. Now I have to pick the litter. Maybe I'm trying to move back again. So I really like the 103 because this is also pretty much a lock that you're going to be able to take Anthony Richardson if you're that type of player that you really like him. So for me, this is easy. It's CJ Stroud for me. And there's really no questions about it.
Yep. Run the pickup.
All right.
Insert NFL draft jingle. Bijan Robinson at the 101, Bryce Young at 102, CJ Stroud 103, Jahmyr Gibbs at 104, JSN at 105, Anthony Richardson 106, Jordan Addison 107, Will Levis 108, Quentin Johnston at 109, Zach Charbonnet 3 for 3 at the 110 spot, Michael Mayer at 111, Kayshon Boutte at 112. We've seen a combination of him and Josh Downs at 112. At 201, let's see who I take. I'm assuming they're going to take Josh Downs here based on the other drafts.
Yep.
There he goes. Devin A-Chain, and then it puts us here. And so we've been taking Zay Flowers here. He's my wide receiver 3. Yep. I believe he's Brad's wide receiver 3. Other players that are in consideration, Kendre Miller, Zach Evans, Sean Tucker. Brad, what are your thoughts here at the 203 spot?
I think here, we've talked about draft capital a little bit before, and this is where I start to question a little bit, right? So I'm sitting at the 203, and Jalen Hyatt is still there. If Jalen Hyatt is the first wide receiver taken off the board, which would not surprise me if he is, I might not be able to pass on him at the 203, right? I just think that value's there. You talk about tiers. Now, I've got Zay Flowers at 4, not 3. But that next tier down, all those guys are kind of lumped together, and Jalen Hyatt's going to be in there. And if he's a high first round draft pick, then he's likely going to be shifting up to the top of that tier for me.
Yeah, for me, it's Zay Flowers, and then there's a teardrop, and even above Kayshon Boutte and Quentin Johnston. And for here, I think, obviously I would take Zay Flowers, but if Zay Flowers was not on the board, I would be looking to trade back. A lot of those running backs are very similar to me as far as a tier. The only thing that's going to separate them is going to be really comes down to the draft capital. I mean, landing spot is going to have a little bit to do with it, but I'm not going to be moving, my RB10 all the way up to RB4 because I like his landing spot. Because even though he's been drafted in the 5th round by a team that needs a running back, I know that kind of worked out with, Tyler Algier last year at the end of the season, but typically like draft capital means more than anything.
So let me put you in a quick spot here. I'm gonna put you in a bind. Zay Flowers gets drafted by the New England Patriots. Jalen in we'll say the 2nd round, and Jalen Hyatt goes to the Chargers at the back end of the 1st round.
Yeah, that is the what are they Sophie's Choice. That's a rough spot because Jalen Hyatt is going to Los Angeles with Justin Herbert. He is a kind of perfect match for what they need. And, he's going to be possibly taking over for Keenan Allen as far as targets here in the next few years. With that, Bucky Brooks talked about, Quentin Johnson and Jalen Hyatt. And he's like, those are my Ted Gins. They're going to be very good for your football team. They're going to stretch the, defense, but they're going to have, you have one job. And that's stretch the defense, go deep, or do a slant. And he's like, those, heat maps, they're not making the whole field red like a Keenan Allen. They are just straight or go, do a quick. So that would be tough because the Patriots is just like such a black hole for fantasy producers that I'd probably have to go with Hyatt on that one, but I hate it. I hate it. I'd probably go running back at that point and give me Kendre Miller or Zach Evans at that point.
Yep. All right. So let's say Zay Flowers is not. We've taken Zay Flowers the last 2. So let's say Zay Flowers got taken at 202 right before us. What are we looking at doing here?
For me, I'm taking one of the running backs. So give me either Zach Evans or Kendre Miller, or I'd even consider Tyjae Spears based on how high he's drafted.
Yeah, the Tyjae Spears is very interesting because we've seen the ADP on him really not move like we thought it was going to. He's still in the back end of the 2nd round, early 3rd in most drafts right now, and there was a lot of hype and expectations coming out of the combine, thinking, hey, this guy is going to rocket up the board, and he hasn't really moved yet. So I think once the draft happens, that might come to fruition a little bit, but. For me, if Zay Flowers isn't there, Zach Evans is the guy. I just think he's got the full 3-down skill set. And I know Kendre Miller probably does also. I like the pedigree and what we saw from Zach Evans altogether. So
let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so 201 was Josh Downs, then Devin A-Chain at 202, Zach Evans 203, Jalen Hyatt 204, Tank Bigsby at 205, Sean Tucker 206, Kendre Miller 207, Zay Flowers 208, Hendon Hooker at 209. Again, if Hendon Hooker had a 1st-round draft capital, I would think about it. Cedric Tillman at 210, Tyjae Spears at 211, Dalton Kincaid at 212. 301, a lot of similar players than we've been taking at the other spots. Yep. You have a lot of good options here, and
let's see what the computer does.
I think that'll shrink a little bit once your draft capital and landing spots comes in here. There's someone asked me a question the other day and said, hey, this player or 301. And I said, I 100% have 25 players that I like more than this wide receiver 4.
Yep.
So yes, I'm taking the pick, and
it's different when you can put names to it, right? That pick may be overvalued or undervalued based on what the perception of the rookie pick is instead of who you're actually getting there, right? So somebody may look at a 3rd-round pick as, I don't really care about that, or maybe it's the 210 or the 211. And when you look at this board, you say, oh, my God, I could get Tyjae Spears or Dalton Kincaid for a late 2nd right now. That now you're starting to put names to it, and you're willing to trade a better player to get to that pick, and you could probably get something on top now. So
here's a guy that, I'm hoping that the Texans pass on Jalen Hyatt, and then that Marvin Mims goes to the Chargers in the 3rd round. So then I can scoop him up right here at 303. For me, that's the guy that I'm looking at here. I think he is more than just a big play guy, but he's absolutely a big play guy. And he's a guy that's only going to need 3 or 4 catches a game to give you some good fantasy production. I think he's going to find the paint. And I was impressed. And I know that listening to Move the Sticks, they were impressed by his route running ability and just how juiced up this guy is. Like, we know he was going to be fast, but to see him change direction and have such lateral quickness and change of direction quickness, that people were, looking at him a little differently after the combine. And I was impressed. So Marvin Mims would be my number 1 pick here, or I would go with Chase Brown.
Yeah, so for wide receivers for me, I actually have Mims. I want to say a couple. I have him 2 spots lower than who I would be looking at here, which is Rakim Jarrett. So I'd be thinking about Rakim Jarrett. I'm a lot higher on Rakim Jarrett than others, though, so take that with a grain of salt. But you can't argue with the big playability that Marvin Mims gives, because that's not Rakim Jarrett's game, right? He's not going to be that down the field burner. So in the 3rd round, if you can get that upside, I definitely agree with that. So we'll go with Marvin Mims here.
Yeah, and I like Rakim as well. I just think Marvin Mims is probably going to get higher draft capital.
Yeah, and Rakim Jarrett was the next wide receiver off the board. So
yeah, and Abinaconda would have been the other selection who almost made it back to us again.
Yeah.
He's went 312. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it just tells you how deep the class is.
I hope he continues to go to 312 because I'm going to have a whole lot of shares. But
what's the earliest you would take him based on what we're seeing right now?
I was thinking about him with our last pick. As soon as you scrolled down a little bit and I saw he was still available, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? Because you see 3 quarterbacks. Most likely those 3 quarterbacks are not coming off the board in the 3rd round, right? So now you bump him up to the 308. Would you give him in the 305, 306? I probably would. I'd be okay.
I considered him at 303. So you're telling me that I could trade back from 303, get 312 plus a 3rd round pick next year?
Yep.
I'm doing that all day. And so that's something that I'm a trade back kind of a guy. I like to accumulate picks, but I'm not going to go trade back to the 4th round where there's not really a lot of guys who are very interested in here. Yep. But I would 100% do it in the other direction. So anyone you're looking at here?
Yeah, I think, somebody we haven't really talked about yet that I think warrants some conversation is going to be at the top of the board here, and that's Roschon Johnson, right? That big body, tall power back. Didn't really show a ton of receiving chops, but we're not really sure. So I think he's a guy that's, in the right spot where he's going to get some carries, has some touchdown upside. And if whoever he is paired with in the backfield goes down, the volume is going to be there for him. And there's some upside there when you look at him, right? Similar to we talked about Eric Gray earlier. I don't think the draft capital for Roschon is going to be quite as high as what we may see Eric Gray, but I do think it's an intriguing option when you're looking at the 4th round and the upside that a running back can give you.
And it could be. I mean, people were talking about him as like, this guy is a potential starting running back in this league. And so he could go higher than we thought. Like, imagine him going to Dallas to pair with Tony Pollard or to the Chargers to pair with Austin Eckler. I think that'd be a great spot for him. And, if he goes ahead of Eric Gray, then that could change things. So, yeah, I'm looking at him as well. And then obviously my guy, Eric Gray.
Yeah. All right, let's go with Roschon.
So to finish it up, we had Jaron Hall, Tucker Kraft, Roschon Johnson, Will Mallory, Zach Kuntz, Davis Allen, Aiden O'Connell. Then we had B. Willis. I don't even know who that is. I know I probably saw him. Is that Braden Willis? Braden Willis. Yeah, I did see him at the combine, and he's the one that actually pointed out that they asked him, did anyone stand out? He said Luke Musgrave. I needed a face with that name. Latu, then Durham, and then Payne Durham, and then Jake Haener and Clayton Tune. I think those are your guys, like Clayton Tune, Jake Haener, and then the UCLA quarterback. I think those are some guys that, like, if you're going to take a late round flyer on a quarterback in your Superflex leagues, especially if you have like a 5-round rookie draft, which some people do, those are kind of your guys that could be your, like, obviously Brock Purdy's kind of a once in a lifetime thing, but if you're looking at a late round flyer kind of a guy, those are kind of guys that you can see. But there's only going to be 10 quarterbacks drafted in the average in the last decade. 10 quarterbacks are drafted. Some years it's 7, some years it's 12. There's more. Is there more than 10 quarterbacks drafted here?
6, 9, or 12.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 of these guys not going to be drafted. I'm looking at you, Stetson Bennett. No, I'm just kidding. But Max Duggan. I mean, those guys might be on the Carson Strong, which actually is decent money. But Carson Strong train.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, we want to give a last shout out. Thank you to our sponsors. Then we'll get out of here. Thank you all for watching the show. Brad?
Yeah, we are brought to you by WynnBET. WynnBET is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WynnBET is now active in Massachusetts and a ton of other states. Be on the lookout for WynnBET Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. During that WynnBET Win Hour, marquee games of the week will have better odds on WynnBET, giving you a larger payout opportunity. And March Madness is also here, and there are so many ways to bet on the big dance. So sign up today to receive our special offer. Bet $100, get $100. That is limited to state availability. And of course, for our DGens, if you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you'll also get $1,000 free credit. There are so many things to choose from. All you have to do is head over to WynnBET.com or download the WynnBET app. Offer is subject to change. Terms and conditions at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We are also brought to you by the SGP Final Four. The Sports Gambling Podcast guys are going to be hosting a Final Four watch party at the historic Ice House in Pasadena, California, Saturday, April the 1st at 7:30 p.m. Make sure you get all the details at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/icehouse. We are also hosting a Masters get together. So if you're looking to hang out with Sean and Ryan at the Stadium Swim and watch the biggest golf tournament in the world, you can win that opportunity with a 3-night stay at the Circa Las Vegas to be able to hang out with those guys. The contest is completely free to enter. All you have to do is go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/golf party. And if you don't win the contest, relax. It's not a big deal. You can still get a discount on a room at the Circa Las Vegas using our promo code SGP15.
Yeah, I heard the guys are going to have some rubber duckies, maybe some floaties.
I like it.
Kramer's definitely going to have the arm floaties, the butterflies going on. All right.
We'll get him the little kid's life vest. It's got the floaty on the arm.
I appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody for checking it out. Make sure you check out our other episodes. And again, any likes, subscribes are appreciated. And please drop all your fantasy football questions. As always, good luck this season.
Cheers.